When the long winter night of the North and South Poles unfolds, the world plunges into a near-absolute, unsettling deathly stillness and freezing cold. This is the most isolated frigid wasteland on Earth's surface, perpetually starved of any direct warmth from the sun, as if even time itself has completely frozen under the extreme low temperatures, yet high above the clouds. Upon that ink-black canopy stretching hundreds of kilometers high, unpredictable and gorgeously radiant ribbons of emerald green light often spread out abruptly in the deep of the night. This sounds like those unexplainable supernatural sorceries in mythology, yet within the rigorous and cold laws of physics, it is a definitive collision both most spectacular and most gentle, the birth of aurora, the exquisite waltz between solar storms and the polar magnetic fields. It deconstructs the universe's violent particles, potent enough to obliterate all life, into 100-mile silent dance at the edge of the Earth. Tonight, let us accompany the gently flickering firelight and this story you need not effortfully memorize, to walk together into her true lifetime. Throughout this long journey of 150 million kilometers of racing and redemption, there is no clamor or impetuosity of short videos, only the purest breath, restraint, and tranquility of nature accompanied by the faint polar winds. The first fracture of the story must begin with that eternally burning, searing star 150 million kilometers away, the sun that is an extremely violent superfurnace filled with the roars of nuclear fusion and distortions of magnetic fields, where myriads of tons of matter boil and detonate upon the solar surface every single second. At a certain moment, due to the snapping and reconnection of magnetic field lines, a monumental solar storm thunderously erupts, violently hurling hundreds of millions of tons of high-energy charged particles into the unshielded, freezing vacuum of space at a terrifying speed of thousands of kilometers per second. These particles, composed of protons and electrons, carry immense energy and destructive attributes, resembling a pack of frantically running, blind cosmic dancers. Within the unobstructed space, they form an invisible cosmic tempest, sweeping past the withered body of Mercury and piercing through the dense, despairing toxic fog of Venus. They hurtle straight toward our delicate, water-blue home with a near-fated posture of cruelty. If the Earth were completely undefended at this moment, this tempest of high-energy particles would completely blow away our vital atmosphere within a few seconds, turning the surface into a desolate, lifeless scorched wasteland. Yet, precisely at the critical threshold where this high-energy particle tempest closes within 10,000 kilometers of the Earth's surface, a pair of invisible, colossal, gentle hands nurtured from the planet's core has already been waiting quietly in the void for billions of years. That is Earth's dipole magnetic field, an invisible force continuously flowing from the fluid iron core at the deepest depths of the planet, interweaving in space to form a grand protective umbrella. At this very instant, the frantically running particle storm cools down and collides fiercely against this invisible umbrella of gravity and magnetism, emitting a monumental thud governed by the laws of physics that remains completely inaudible to human ears in the vacuum. Under the soft yet strict obstruction of Earth's magnetic field, their originally straight, destructive direction undergoes a highly restrained, introverted deflection. Locked tightly within the orbits woven by magnetic lines, they begin to glide along those invisible silks toward the north and south magnetic poles, a prolonged journey that has shed all violent sharpness. When these subdued cosmic particles, guided by the magnetic lines, finally descend into the upper atmosphere roughly 100 to 300 kilometers above the polar ground, they encounter the most critical and aesthetically beautiful chemical reunion of their existence. This is the fringe of the atmosphere, known as the ionosphere, a mysterious upper-altitude realm where the air is incredibly thin yet teeming with all kinds of active gases. At this stage, the cosmic particles that had wandered through the vacuum for days begin to display a psychological shift akin to human logic. They no longer seek destruction, choosing instead to pass all their energy unreservedly to the native gas molecules here through silent collisions. When high-energy electrons gently strike the lone oxygen atoms in the ionosphere, the electrons within the oxygen atoms are instantaneously excited to a higher energy level. Yet, in the iron law of physics, any excited atom ultimately longs to return to its original, most certain, and peaceful ground state. Thus, after a brief wait of fractions of a second, the oxygen atom gently exhales a particle of excess energy in the late-night sky, and this energy, refracted in the vacuum, manifests precisely as a visible, exceedingly pure, low-saturation emerald green glimmer. This is the most common color of the aurora we observe from the surface, a gentle curtain call of nature woven jointly from the calming of oxygen atoms and the disarming of cosmic particles. And if these charged particles descend deeper, colliding with the more tranquil nitrogen molecules, they excite a highly restrained, destiny-laden splendor shaded like red wine in deep red or purple hues. All collisions take place orderly and regularly in an alternating fashion within the extremely thin air. Entirely devoid of any terrestrial smoke or clamor, these colors transform into massive veils, stretching hundreds of kilometers wide at an altitude of 10,000 meters, performing an exceedingly slow-motion glide across the canvas of eternal night, driven by faint atmospheric waves resembling seafloor currents. They resemble a cosmic lullaby devoid of notes, completely independent of mundane visual perception, thoroughly deconstructing a physical high-energy movement that could otherwise destroy life into the most secure, healing, and comforting interstellar warmth of the night. To fully discern this beautiful secret enveloped within the polar night skies, humanity has poured the wisdom, passion, and untold, prolonged vigils of countless scientists over the past several centuries of history. As early as the dawn of the 20th century, the renowned Norwegian physicist Christian Birkeland, in order to prove that the aurora was not the ghost fire of myths but an electrical phenomenon originating from the sun, conducted a world-startling, wondrous experiment inside an absolutely quiet laboratory. He crafted a purely magnetized metal sphere known as a terrella, Little Earth, suspending it in the center of a transparent vacuum chamber that was almost completely evacuated, and then fired a beam of high-energy cathode rays straight at this tiny, miniature world to simulate a solar storm. When the lights of the laboratory were entirely extinguished, a physical metamorphosis bordering on a miracle suddenly occurred within the dark vacuum chamber. Two exceedingly faint yet perfectly symmetrical glows accurately encircled the north and south poles of that metal sphere, like a silver crown hand-painted by human intellect. That was the first time humanity, within the narrow confines of land, utilized absolutely rational mathematical and electromagnetic laws to replicate that exquisite, 100-mile waltz of the polar night sky. Through subsequent satellite observations, astronomers were further shocked to discover that the auroras above the Earth are actually not scattered fragments, but two giant auroral ovals, spanning thousands of kilometers in diameter, slowly rotating around the magnetic poles year-round. Viewed from the perspective of space, these two ovals resemble a pair of exquisite wedding rings blinking with faint, green light worn by our water-blue planet in the deep, freezing cosmos, silently witnessing the 4.5 billion-year speechless attachment between the sun and the Earth. Every soul sitting before a desk, tossing and turning with anxiety over the trivialities of life, if they could understand the countless wounds this body has endured through the eons, might feel a sense of security completely healed in the face of such absolute rationality that transcends mundane judgment. With a near-ultimate capacity for embrace, it coaxes the coldest, most violent crises from the depths of the universe into a 100-mile silent sleep suggestion in the loneliest polar night skies, potent enough to lull all insomniacs on the surface into a peaceful slumber. The most healing and reassuring aspect of the aurora's birth lies in its absolute fairness and eternal silence, which transcend all human societal rules. It does not require you to purchase expensive astronomical hardware, nor to master complex physical formulas. Today in the year 2600, whenever the nightly solar storm encounters Earth's dipole magnetic field once more, the sliver of light cast upon the polar glaciers shares the exact same synesthetic attribute as the play of light and shadow seen by the very first dinosaurs looking up at the starry sky tens of millions of years ago. At this very moment, in this room so quiet that only breathing can be heard, and in every corner of this building, countless wisps of faint color synesthesia silently refracted from the polar upper sky are penetrating all the tense neural layers in your mind. Accompanied by soothing interstellar electronic music, these colors glide through the upper sky hundreds of thousands of meters high. They have never accelerated their frequency for the rise of any historical figure, nor borne a single shred of earthly heat or clamor for the shifting of any era. They caress the gray glaciers of the Arctic stretching for thousands of miles and illuminate the empty white wasteland of the Antarctic, ultimately choosing to shed all the sharpness of high-energy particles, transforming into a gentle residual warmth above $2.73 K to quietly envelope you and this weary world together. In the face of such a grand, robust, and eternal natural scale, all the gains and losses we cling to during the day, the anxieties, regrets, and pains that make us toss and turn, appear utterly insignificant, like a drop in the ocean, fleeting in an instant. It is like a refined elder who has weathered countless vicissitudes and seen through the disillusionment of spacetime, whispering tenderly in your ear during every lonely late night at a near-static frequency of slow fluctuations, "It's all right, everything is fine, everything will pass." Through 150 million kilometers of lonely wandering and silent disarming, it proves that embrace and self-healing are the most ultimate and enduring ancient romance of this cold cosmos, with the smooth alternation of the sunspot cycle. That exquisite waltz taking place in the polar upper sky will ultimately arrive at its brief landing and pause. Over the coming weeks, those excited oxygen atoms will completely release the very last bits of energy within their bodies, and the polar night sky will return once more to its original, deep, pure, and embracing absolute pitch blackness. Yet at least at this very moment, in the brief golden age when human civilization can utilize rational eyes to look up and comprehend the starry sky, it still flickers persistently, still using its last remaining trace of emerald clear light to guard the night sky of the surface from being swallowed by a merciless absolute nothingness. The birth of Aurora, the exquisite waltz between solar storms and the polar magnetic fields. She answers all ultimate riddles regarding the colors of the night mentioned in the prologue. She proves that we have never been orphans accidentally appearing in the lonely night, but beautiful notes destined to emerge in this tens of billions of years long cosmic self-healing epic. The world has completely quieted down. The moonlight outside the window, together with those ancient glimmers in the polar upper sky, is weaving a most secure and reassuring dim light and shadow in your room. There is no need to ponder where the end of the particle storm lies, nor to worry about when tomorrow's sun will rise. You only need to attune to the oldest, most self-healing, slow heartbeat of this universe, completely relaxing your breath. The story has gently touched down. That interstellar lullaby that has drifted for 150 million kilometers is softly echoing in your mind. Please close your eyes, and peacefully sink into this deepest, most tranquil dreamland woven for you by the entire planet.